Welcome to Sightline. Today, January 4th, is World Braille Day, and our guest is interpreter and programmer, Mr. Angarag-Erdene Bayarbaatar. So, good evening, Mr. Angarag-Erdene.
Good evening, and thanks for inviting me to participate in your program.
Today is World Braille Day, which is the day to celebrate the awareness and importance of Braille. And there are over 11,000 Mongolian people that have visual impairments. And it says only 40% of them use the Braille system. So what would you say about the availability of publications in Braille?
Of course, so the Braille publications or Braille books we are rather lacking in that field. So Braille books are extremely rare. There are only few number of books that have been published in Braille altogether. So first of all, it's very rare, extremely rare. And that 40%, I believe that's overestimation of the reality, you know. It is less than 40% of the people that can read in Braille.
How many percent would you say?
I would say it would be around like 20 or something around that. Yes.
Okay, got it. So you graduated from the Mongolian International University, majoring in English teaching. So I guess the textbooks that were used at the university were not in Braille. So how did you catch up with your studies? How did you do your homework?
Thankfully, today's development of the technological innovations have been enabled me to, to study just like as everyone else. To explain that, there are like computer programs that reads text on the computer display, what's written on there. So it reads everything out loud to me, and I understand, and I respond to it via using keyboard alone.
So it's a text-to-speech program.
Text-to-speech program, yes.
Okay. So I've heard another program that you have been working on. So you worked on this very important programs at the Innovation Development Center of the Blind NGO.
Yeah, which one are you preferring?
The one called the arbitrator device. Can you tell us what it is?
Of course. So I would talk about the lack of Braille materials, the sufficient materials in Braille writing. So in order to fulfill the needs, needs that people have, we had developed, or rather localized, Orbit Research LLC company's device called Orbit Reader 20, which is the Braille device. And what it does is that when you connect it to the computer, and it converts the computer text into the Braille text. So what is written on the computer display, it will also show me in Braille. So it is a device that converts the usual text into Braille text, so people can, people with visual impairment can read it using their fingertips.
So it will convert the digital written information into Braille writing.
Yes.
Okay. So can you use it with mobile phones?
Yes, you can. It has like few modes of use. That, for example, it can be used via Bluetooth, and it can be used via USB connected. So yes, you can use it with your smartphones, like such as iPhone or Android phones, and to convert, to read what's written on your phone via your fingertips in Braille. So it enables us to do so many more things that we could not do due to the lack of sufficient materials in Braille before.
Okay, that's great. So I've also heard this term called e-Braille, and e-Braille and the arbitrator, are they the same thing?
Yes, e-Braille, the Braille is the writing system that has, that people with visual impairment can read with their fingertips, right? So people most of the books or most of the Braille materials are written in Braille, and most of them were published on paper materials. So instead of using papers, we now adopt the technological innovation, and the device Orbit Reader 20 enables us to carry like more than 1,000 books, or just more than that, in just single device, right? If we publish Braille books in like on the paper, it would be, first of all, it would be very big and heavy, and it would be cumbersome to carry around. So to allow that Orbit Reader works as it should as it was intended. So there is a terminology called e-Braille system, which is the computer terms of like computer programming language, which converts the digital text into Braille dotted text. So the computer and the device will know that which digital text is which dotted Braille letters or numbers or something like that. So e-Braille is the system, and Orbit Reader 20 is the device.
Okay, thank you. So I've heard you teach people how to use this Orbit Reader device. And how long does it take someone to learn it on average?
Pretty much really quickly. It is not a very complicated device. There are only like few 15 or 16 buttons on the top, and people can use those, and people would learn which button does what, the combinations of commands that would be used by the people, and using those buttons. It would take on average like 2 to 3 days at most, I would say.
Okay, so how much does one Orbit Reader device cost, and how many are there in Mongolia? Do you know?
That's the most important issue actually we are facing today. The cost of Braille device in general is very high. It is not a common device. It is not commonly manufactured, so it is very expensive to begin with. And to add up the costs of labor and the other fee, the border fee or something, right? I think that's
the
right.
Customs fee?
Yeah, customs fee. To add those, and it would become more expensive than anyone could afford. We have few so far, like we have 9 or 10 in general. So we have conducted like training of those Orbit Reader and E10 devices in 3 different provinces, such as Sukhwasa, Dornat, and Tarkhan provinces. We had left like Orbit Reader device in each province in their libraries, so people can use it and utilize it to connect to the world.
I see. So there are very few Orbit Reader devices in Mongolia.
At the moment, yes. So I'm hoping that there would be plenty of devices that everyone could use.
So the ones that you have already now, are they being donated by a foreign organization, or are you buying them on your own, or is the government assisting you with the fee?
And no, to the latter. I mean, government is not supporting us at the moment, and we can't afford it, on our own. It is expensive, and when we add up to like tens of them, it would be very expensive, even beyond our budget. So most of them are donated by foreign international organizations, and via the projects that we have conducted in Mongolia under their their name. So like three device were given by World Intellectual Property Organization, and 6 devices were given by the Canada Fund, the Canada Fund organization. I don't know how to say it. The Canada Sang in
Okay.
Mongolia, yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to ask about the adaptation work of this system. So so Mongolian programmers are working in order to make it accessible for Mongolian users. So you're one of those people. So how many people worked on making this adapt to Mongolian language, and also how was it like to work on this device and the system?
I think it's just 2 of us made it possible. And the translation process and a little bit programming process I worked on. And my boss, my director, also participated with the communication to the organization that made this device, so we can add our language into this device and use it as our own. So I would say like just 2 of us worked on it, and it was long and arduous journey to make it possible to bring it eventually. So it started, I think, in 2015.
2015. Wow.
Not the device, but we started working on the e-Braille system itself. There was no Mongolian Braille system that would convert digital text into Braille text. So we had to begin with that. And we started working on that in 2015, and in 2017 we finished working on that, and we had been trying to find the right device to adapt it into Mongolian language, and we finally found Orbit Reader 20, and which is very small and very light and very easy to use. So it was perfect, the perfect solution that we were looking for all those time. Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have the Braille, the device, the Orbit Reader 20, then you would have to use the text-to-speech program, right? And I also heard that you worked on adapting the text-to-speech program into the Mongolian, for the Mongolian users.
Yeah. So many people, they are trying to learn computer. They are trying to learn how to use computer for their daily lives, and the most difficult situation that happens that blocks their process is language barrier. So most of the texts are written in English, and the program that reads it out loud is in English also. So it is making things harder for the new learners. So we had to break that barrier, you know. So we had been working on localizing NVDA, which stands for Non-Visual Desktop Access. This is the free text screen reader software that is made by NVAccess.org, the Australian company, and it is open source program, thankfully. So we had worked on the Mongolian translation and Mongolian localization, which is making things more easier for the newcomers, you know, new learners.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to say, like, good job, Innovation Development Center of the Blind.
Thanks.
So next question is, in the future, what changed concerning the Braille technology or maybe DTS reader technology do you expect to be made? And also, what would you say Mongolia needs to do in order to provide everyone, especially those with visual impairments, with equal opportunities to learn and to get information?
So the one we made it possible to use the screen reader software in Mongolian language, but there is also a barrier that the operating system that we use do not have, or some half-baked translation of the operating systems into Mongolian language. I understand it could be hard because the technological terms are harder to translate into Mongolian language, but we need to work on it sooner than later, because the more things are developing today, if we leave things as it is now, it would be too late for every one of us, not just for the blind people, for like Mongolian people. We have to adopt, we have to work on standardization of the technological terms into Mongolian language, and also we have to work on translating operating systems or other important parts of the technology into Mongolian language. Otherwise, we will use our language altogether as the rate it is going. So I see that screen reader software and text-to-speech and Braille system will be developing until there is no blind people no more, right? So it will be developed, and I will be working on it as much as I can, as long as I can. And there could be new innovations coming that would enable us to do more, more than just Braille and more than just screen reader. For example, speech-to-text software, right? Speech-to-text software and other artificial intelligence driven systems such as Siri or Echo. I want to see those in Mongolian language, and if those come to the use of common people, I mean use of for everyone, it would help blind people to do so many more things. It would enable us to more ways to do things. It would enable us, it would help us a lot in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, our time is unfortunately coming to an end. So what message would you like to give to our audience at the end of our discussion?
I want to say that, even we are blind, even we can't see, that many people take for granted, we can do most of the things just like everyone else. We can work on graphics, graphs, we can work on charts, we can use Word, Office programs. So I want to say that as blind people, as we use our technology, our Braille system and screen reader software, we can work just like everyone else. So give us a chance if you see people who want to, who wants jobs or who want to join your organization, give us a chance. We can do more than you imagine. So I want to say that. That's my message.
Okay, that's a great message. Thank you very much for coming to our studio and to talk about this, your systems and also everything that you have been working on.
Thanks for inviting.
You watched Sightline on MNB World. On the occasion of World Braille Day, which is on January 4th, we've talked to interpreter and programmer at Innovation Development Center of the Blind, Mr. Angarag-Erdene Bayarbaatar. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.